Hey y'all, Ramdino here, coming at you for another Appalachian Trail community news and THru HIker update. If you've come to this channel to help me build and support the hiker community, and particularly to support the THru hikers in 2021, you have come to the right place. And as the late great Jerry Reed said, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. So let's go ahead and get chatting about what's going on with the trail. So our 2020 folks that we've got out there, Nat Geo, he finished his hike. So he finished at Springer Mountain on his Sobo trip from 2020. Congratulations, Nat Geo. Awful good to see that, and we just think that's awesome, and congratulations. Now we've got one more guy from 2020 that we are out there tracking, Frosty the Snowbo, and he is south of McCarthy Knob right now and continuing on with his Sobo trip. So looking forward to him as he continues through his hike and following him. We got a ton of folks in 2021, so we're gonna get right to them. Pookie Bear, he is almost to North Carolina, and he has lost 18 pounds of trail weight. So a lot of people get rid of gear when they get to Neal's Gap. That's not that unusual, but it's unusual for Pookie Bear because Pookie Bear has gotten rid of Pookie Bear. That's right, he has lost 18 pounds of personal weight. I mean like his body weight. So that is awesome. One thing you have to worry about is dehydration and actually malnutrition too, getting your electrolytes all out of balance, all that stuff. So be careful you don't lose too much too fast, but congratulations on that, Pookie Bear. He is on the AT diet plan. Dead Man, he got on trail. Shiner, Maverick, Easy, and Captain Coconut, they made it past Unicoi Gap, and they had to help with a hiker that came in the shelter. The shelter was full. The hiker came in with a dog that was injured. He had been carrying his dog, and it was another THru hiker. So they gave up a spot in the shelter for the dog and the THru hiker while he got him comfortable for the night. And then the next morning, he had to carry the dog back out, and they didn't have to carry in his gear. I'm sure they offered, but wasn't any need of doing that. So I'm sure they followed him out, but they did get the dog out, and the dog apparently had some type of sprained paw that he got messing around with another dog. It wasn't a hiking injury per se, even though he was on the trail. But in any case, there's been a lot of extrications and evacs and a lot of incidents going on the trail this year so far. We'll talk about that. Slogohannes, she made it to Unicoi Gap, and she has decided to get off the trail as well. She had an injury, and so rather than put other people at risk and try to walk the injury out and it get worse and then have to have first responders come in there to get her out, she just decided to get out while it was convenient for everybody. So thanks a lot for that, Slogohannes. She had also helped a disoriented hiker back near Springer. So this particular disoriented hiker had taken a cat hole break, gotten away from her gear, gotten away from her emergency beacon, gotten away from, had lost a shoe, had lost a jacket, and was completely disoriented. You know, mentally, I suppose, you can get, there's such a thing as getting disoriented. You get back to the trail. A lot of times, if I haven't put a marker or I don't know where I put remember what my gear was, then I may think north, south, and south is north for just a second, but it doesn't take me long. It is easy to get disoriented, but she was really disoriented just due to hiking and whatever kind of mental and physical condition she was in. So Slogohannes did have to help carry her gear out, had to gather up her shoe and her jacket and stuff. So all of that obviously was an issue for the other hikers that were there with us or with them, and can cause some problems, some inconveniences, but really other people can get hurt doing that. And in fact, Slogohannes thinks she may have maybe pushed it a little after that to try to make up the miles after having been delayed to help that. So think about that before you get out there on the trail. The Coffee and Ready team of the Bacos, they have made it to Dix Creek, and they are taking a 00. They're having some shoe issues with the zero drop shoes that they have, and a lot of people can't get adjusted to those. I'm sure they maybe took some hikes beforehand to try to get adjusted, but they are now at Dix Creek, which is almost all the way through Georgia and North Carolina, so maybe they didn't hike as much as in their zero drop shoes to get accustomed to them, and so they are having to trade out some shoes, and that has caused them some issues as far as time delays. But just at one point he was hiking in his Crocs, so that's not a good thing to hike on the trail in your Crocs, believe me. So in any case, they are getting that straightened out. Should be on their way to North Carolina and Franklin anytime. Miguel Santiago and Nadia Finet, they have crossed the 100-mile mark. Congratulations to them, and they are somewhere around the Franklin area. They are able to meet up with Spotter and buy Spotter dinner. Now, you'll recall from an earlier video that Spotter put them up at Blood Mountain Cabins right before they got on the trail. So the trail provides, and Spotter provided for them, and now they provide for Spotter. So that's awful cool. The Blazing Bakers, they are in the Smokies, and they had to take a zero at a shelter because the weather conditions were raining. Everybody was completely soaked, windy. They were soaked from the wind and the rain, and it was cold, and they were concerned about hypothermia. So they made the smart choice of staying there, at least getting some stuff dry, staying warm, staying out of the wind until the next day when conditions improve. So thank you to them for making that smart decision and not possibly causing other folks to have to be evac'd out of there. There were other people in the shelter with them. They were a great example of good hikers. And so I'm sure that they had some influence on those other hikers staying there. So appreciate that, Bakers. Quicksand, he's solo again, and he is on his way to the Roan Mountain Highlands. Hopefully he'll get some good weather, so he'll get some great views through there. Slow-mo, he's gotten started, and he did the approach trail. Not so much. He's in the Irwin area. Ultra, she should be around the Franklin area by now. Traveling Beat is in the Franklin area. Rocket Man, he's in North Carolina and in the Franklin area. Soa's got on trail, and with any luck, should be out of Georgia by now. Gaddy made it to the trail. Greg Pfeiffer has made it to North Carolina, and he is hiking for Fallen Not Forgotten Charity. So that is a charity that raises money to help the families of military personnel who have given their last measure of sacrifice to this country. They've been killed in combat or died otherwise in service to our nation. And so this charity gives back to their families in support, also in supporting them in finding recreational opportunities throughout the United States. So, all charities are great, but particularly anything is near and dear to my heart since I'm a veteran, anything that gives back to veterans or their families. So if you'll go to down to Greg Pfeiffer's name on our list in the hiker list, the hiker support list, and that is, you can access that through a link down below. If you'll go to that and then go all the way over in the road, you'll find a link to his charity. And there's anybody that else has a charity, that's where you'll find their links to their charities there. Claire Gover, she is almost done with Georgia. Silva, she made it to Neal's. Pyro made it out of Smokies, and he is on his way to Hot Springs. Lynn Gert is on trail and almost through Georgia. Aspinock, he's made it to the Knock. Susan Camphor, she's almost to North Carolina. Kiki and Bam are around the Franklin area, and they are raising money for Manna Food Bank and Hiking for Hunger. So there again, you'll find them on our list, and page over on that row, and you'll find how to give to the Manna Food Bank there for Kiki and Bam. Sutton family, they are finishing up Tennessee, and they'll be in Damascus very soon. Crawl, who is a leg amputee, he is probably somewhere around Gooch Gap Shelter. Mr. Freeze and Farrell, they are in the Irwin area. Happy's made it to Roan Highlands, and Uphill is on the trail and somewhere around the 50-mile mark. And then we've also got Spotter, Gadget, Pac-Man, and Bass, or I don't know if it's Bass or Bass. It's all about that bass, or it's all about that bass. How about let me know, Bass or Bass, or somebody that may know which, is it the fish or is it the vocal name out there? So whatever it is, they are on their way to the Knock. And then our last remaining person that's on the AT for the calendar year Triple Crown is Horsepower. He's in Pennsylvania, and he is going to be in New Jersey any day now. So as I mentioned, we've got a few people that are off the trail. Subman and Suds and 2Ps, they got off at Newfound Gap. Looks like one of the team from the Submans and Suds team has re-injured a knee that they had surgery on in September, so they got off to go back and rehab that. Timberwolf and Terry got off due to Terry taking a pretty bad knee injury, and they will not be returning. Sloka Hannes, as I mentioned before, she got off with an injury, a possible double torn meniscus, and she got it coming down Blood Mountain, made it to Trey Mountain, but decided to go ahead and get off at the next gap there, the next road crossing, and get out before she had to get somebody to come help her. Scatterbrains got off due to an injury, and just found out today that Scooter from the Scooter Hikes, he is off trail for a few weeks also for a meniscus. So all these meniscus are typically coming from, coming down a hill is when you're really putting pressure on that meniscus. So think about that as you're coming downhill. Think about that as you're doing these big miles and stuff, that sometimes it takes a while to get conditioned and to get your trail legs and to get your muscles built up, but it will come if you stay on the trail. A couple folks returning and have gotten off the trail that have indicated they're returning but have not returned yet, and that's Patches. She's changing out gear and she's coming back when it warms up. And Moose Liver has found out she does not have cancer, so amen, hallelujah, congrats, yay, Moose Liver, glad to hear that. And she'll be hiking with Mustang Sally. Mustang Sally got off the trail up in Virginia, and so they are going to do a Bobo hike, and they will be doing some trail magic between now and when they start their hike. Yowie, she says she is coming back soon as well. So all the hikers out there that gave me your updates, and that was the lion's share, most of them, thank you, thank you, thank you. That really helps me put this together each week, and it just cuts down on my workload so much. So we got a ton of people starting this week. I'm going to give each one of them a shout out, and then hopefully they'll be updating us as well. We got Dare Bear, Christy Bryson, Rick Harhausen, Just Jim, Don Lemmy, Stephen Walls, Gary El Jefe, Connor Drennan, Mackenzie Hogg, Ever Forward, Edge, Philip McDade, Stephen Walls, Aquaman, Hard Labor, Alan Taylor, Wayne Erickson, Amara Gardner, Sam Calamari, Huck Finn, Elizabeth Perch, Mike and Kathy Sally, Guido Arnon, She's the One, Tickles, Gerald Shannon, Scott Carmody, Allie, Potholder. All those folks are starting this week. They're all on our list, and of you folks starting this week, this is the start of March. We've got a ton of folks every day except one is maxed out in March, meaning there's more than 38 hikers starting each day. In most cases, above 40. And so please, I want to see a picture of what these shelter locations look like with Tent City and the shelter pack. Don't want to take anybody's privacy from them, so do a shot a ways back, but I am interested and would like to share it here on the channel for other folks to see that. So what kind of registrations have we got? Nobo on the AT registrations. We got Nobo last week. We had 2,486, and this week we got 2,520. Flip-floppers, we got 131 from last week, and this week we got 139. And Sobos, last week we had registered 115, and this week we got 123. So our total last week was 2,732, and our total this week is up 50 hikers to 2,782. And that is up from last year, up 454 hikers that were registered this time last year in 2020. So pretty good increase there. Those increases continue to rise. As I said before, the trail is maxed out on March 1st for 42 days. There is one thing I want to say about that, and that is that the max used to be at 50. And so in 2019, 2020, we were above 50 on a lot of days. There was a couple days I think we actually hit 60. So we're actually lower, with just people even being around 48 is still lower than where we have been in previous years for the maximum people on trail. Now, if you don't know, the ATC changed the maximum that they have maxed the trail out as the carrying capacity each day from 50 to 38 because they eliminated 12 spots due to COVID. The shelters are supposed to be closed. A lot of shelters in Georgia, but not all, they will hold 12 people. So there's where the 12 from 50 down to 38 comes from. And then I also noticed that we have one day in March now that is not maxed out. So before, all the days in March were maxed out. Now we got one day that's not. So that tells me that a couple of folks canceled their trip, and they did the right thing, and they went to the ATC and updated their registration and canceled their trip through the ATC site, the ATC .camp.org, I believe is what it is, or atccamp.org. And please do that. If you decide to cancel your hike for whatever reason, go and cancel it online so that it takes you away from the carrying capacity on the trail, and that way people can look at it and decide if they want to, make a decision about whether they want to go that day or not with as accurate as data as possible. Right now, over 338 folks have signed the book down at Amicalola Falls State Park. So that is the registration book that you sign when you get there before you start the trail. Not everybody, you're not required to sign that book. Not everybody signs that book. And point in case, last year this time, we had over 545 people who had signed that book. So we're down from 545 to 338. That's a lot of folks. And that tells me that a lot of people are not registering. Usually it's 10 to 30% don't register with the ATC, their hike. That's going to be a lot higher this year because people are ticked off at the ATC, the way they've been acting, the things they've done, things they've taken away from people, and so people are just not going to register. So unfortunately, that's given us bad data that we would otherwise have good data. And pack weights are around 20 to 52 pounds. So I've seen the low end was 20. I did see one person that had a 52-pound pack, couple 50s in there, but mainly people, the average is around 33 pounds is what people are starting the trail off. And that typically comes down, of course, in the summer, but even winter weight will typically come down once people get on trail for a couple days and realize they got stuff they just don't need. So trail moves, we talked about the incidences between human and canine evacs we've had to do. There was 2 happened up in Virginia this past week, one on the connector trail between Dragon's Tooth and McAfee Knob, and those people had to be evac'd out with first responders and ambulances, the whole 9 yards. And then there was another up there where somebody fell on the ice and slid 250 feet down the hill. Fortunately caught themselves, but they had facial injuries and some other injuries, limb injuries and things. And so all of those caused first responders have to get out there, go in harm's way, get those people out, and plus other hikers that were helping these folks as well. So it just seems like there's been a lot of people that have gone to the trail and not been prepared this year. So a lot of people watch YouTube channels and they have this idea that the trail's all rainbows and unicorns. It's not. If you're going to hike the trail and do a thru hike on it, you need to go do some hikes on the trail would be the best places, but get on some places that you have to have some hills that you got to pull. Do it in the rain, do it in the cold, so you get a feel of what the ATC is like. Do it over extended period of time for 4 days, a week at a time. You need to be doing that if you're a novice hiker or haven't hiked before, because if you don't, there's a good possibility you're going to get in trouble. You're going to cause you problems. You're going to cause other hikers problems that help you, because hikers help each other. That's just the way our community is in all occasions. But you're also going to put first responders, you're going to take up those resources and put possibly their lives in danger. Certainly they'll be there instead of helping somebody else. And people don't understand that the people die every year on the trail. So, and I'm not talking about violent deaths like, violence from another person. I'm talking about just hiking injuries for people being purely unprepared for what they're getting into. So think about that before you get out on the trail, and let's make sure that we are playing it safe out there. All right, so I contacted, trying to find out about the Dahlgreen Backpacker Campground up in Maryland. So if you saw my last video, not my last video, but you saw my section hike from Pennsylvania down to Virginia, you'll see Come Along and I stayed there at the Dahlgreen Backcountry Campground. And the bathhouse, which also has toilets in it and showers, was closed for renovations, and they were renovating it. So that is supposed to be open on April 2nd. So shout out to a couple people that helped me find that out. The Vice President for Volunteerism with the Patagonia Appalachian Trail Club, Anster Davidson, and also Tom Loop, who's the chair with the Maryland AT Management Committee. Thank you guys for tracking that information down. So by the time the bubble gets there, that bathhouse should be open. The first person that gets there when it's open, send me a picture of it. I want to share that with everybody on the channel, and I'll share the before and after pictures so they can see what it looked like. But it ought to be pretty nice when they get done with it. And then our northern correspondent, Whispers, he has sent us an update from the New England states, and he says the big update this week is that Vermont will now allow folks who are 14 days past their final vaccine dose to enter without further restrictions. So that's pretty awesome. And New Hampshire continues to allow folks to enter from Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. So you're coming from Vermont. If you're cleared into Vermont, looks like you're cleared into New Hampshire. Maine and Massachusetts continue to require the quarantine, test, song, and dance, but things continue to look better up there as well, he says. He does say there's one blip on the stat in New Hampshire. It's too early to tell, but it does look like things are being contained up there. And he says as far as backcountry continuing status, the shelter sites, not the huts, they remain open in the Whites and the Mahoosics. The huts shut down in the winter, but they are opening up for the upcoming season, and so they will be open. Latito Paul, he has sent in that bear cables are being installed or have already been installed at the Fingerboard Shelter in Harriman State Park, New York. So Fingerboard Shelter is usually one of the first shelters up north that gets shut down because bears coming in there. Bears have come into the shelter and taken people's packs and rummaged through packs and torn stuff up, made a mess, scared people to death, so they shut that down and people can't go in there. They have not had the bear cables there, and so now they do. So that is good news to hear that. And then I also heard from 2 different subscribers that the ATC has ridge runners out there, despite them telling us and hikers not to be out there on the trails. So I've got mixed feelings about that, but at the same time, I am glad they're out there. They need to be out there. They are out there helping hikers. They're out there, of course, doing maintenance around the shelter sites and picking up trash and stuff that they shouldn't have to, because everybody's supposed to be practicing leave no trace, but they are doing that out there and just helping people. They don't have the authority to run you out of the shelter, but I tell you what you better do. You better listen to what they say. If you get smart with them if they tell you to do something and you don't do it, they got a radio and they got a ranger on the other end of that radio, and it won't take a skinny minute for them to make that phone call. And the next thing you know, you'll have your backpack on the front of you and your hands behind you in cuffs, and the rangers will be walking you out of there. So treat these ridge runners with respect while they're out there. They are volunteers, and they're not cops. They should be nice to you, but don't worry about it if they're not. You be nice to them and thank them for what they do out there. I don't know if they're cleaning privies right now, but a lot of times that is something they have to do, is maintain those privies. Do you want to maintain those privies? I didn't think so. I also asked y'all last week if you had gotten the alert, and if you were registered with the ATC, if you had gotten an alert about the down power line in Southern Virginia. So I got a mixed bag of that coming in. About 50% of you said you did get the alert, and 50% said you did not. So when you register your hike, you tell them how you want to get alerts, whether it be on your email or via text. So about half of you said you did, and half of you said you didn't. There was also, I put it out, that same alert, I put it out on my channel and my community tab, and there were other people that put it out in Facebook groups for the AT. So make sure that that's where you got the alert from. I am going to contact the ATC and find out if they did send that alert out, and if they didn't, why didn't they, since it was a trail closure that people are going to have to shuttle around, and they need to know about that. Or if they did send it out, why it didn't go to everybody. I'll be talking to that and let you know. But I appreciate everybody getting back to me and letting me know whether or not they got it. A couple videos back, I did a gear review, and the gear review was on carbon tracking poles that I currently using right now. So I have worked a deal with the company to get everybody for the next 3 weeks. If you want those tracking poles, you can get them for 5% off. There is a particular code you have to put in. It's 05T9X Ramdino. I'll leave that down here as well, and that link to get to that, and you can pick you up a set of those tack niner poles with a 5% discount over the next 3 weeks. And then our bag tag winner from our last week has already, I've sent his bag tag out to him, and that was Funkster. And this week, the Hiking Hobbit has won this bag tag. So Hiking Hobbit, if you'll send me in my email or DM your mailing information, I will get this bag tag out to you. And next week, it won't be a bag tag giveaway, but we'll be doing another giveaway next week, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget, if for some reason you don't have time to watch all of the video, and if you've gotten this far, you pretty much watched all of it, but in the future, if you'd rather watch it on a podcast, I have a podcast at iTunes, Spotify, all the major ones, and that's just Ramdino Roaming the Trails. Again, that's the name of it, and you can go and download that, listen to your way on your way to work, listen to it if you're out there on the trail, listen to it while you're on your fancy schmancy bike pedaling away at the house. Any case, folks, that's all I got this week. As always, appreciate you, and we'll see you out here.